Hello, everyone, and welcome to RIFC Nation. I'm your host, Matt, and this is episode 4. Please click that like button and subscribe to the channel. And remember, you can always find RIFC Nation on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms. Before I dive into this one, it's worth noting I'm trying a new streaming site, so hopefully you like the new layout and the new look to everything. And just bear with me in case anything weird happens technically. Hopefully, I'll be able to fix it on the fly. And if you're on the podcast version, hopefully you won't even notice. But here we go. Rhode Island FC traveled to the West Coast in the club's first away match and played to a 2-all draw versus Monterey Bay FC in what was a pretty exciting and wide open game. I decided that watching at 6 p.m. match on a Sunday night at a brewery would be a big detriment in me having to wake up, go to work Monday morning, and teach the youth of America. So I decided to take this one in from the comforts of my house. But I will note that both the club's official watch party at Providence Brewing and the Defiance's watch party at the Guild both looked well attended and seemed to be a good time. If you haven't seen it yet, the Defiance have announced their watch party for Saturday's match versus Tampa Bay will be at the German Club in Pawtucket at 7:30 on Saturday night. I think this one I can see myself getting to because it's a Saturday night and I have that Sunday to recover. But hopefully we'll see what the club puts out as well, and hopefully I'll be at one of those two watch parties. But as far as this one goes, it was nice to watch my local team at home in my house for the first time on television. I do not have Nesson, so I opted to use my NordVPN subscription coupled with my ESPN Plus to watch, and I had zero issues. I actually set it up on a TV screen and a second computer monitor, so had dual screens going and tried to immerse myself and really kind of dive into this one. My son came down in his road kit and RIFC hat to sit and watch as well, so we had our own little mini watch party. It was a familiar starting 11 for Rhode Island with only the one change from the opener as Connor McGlynn slid in to replace the injured Clay Halstead. Vegas in net with Yao, Stoneman, and Nodarse as center backs, flanked by Turnbull and Quazera, with the aforementioned McGlynn, Ibarra, and Brito in the midfield, and Fuson and Chico leading the line. On the bench for Cano Smith was Doyle, Thomasai, Lee, Sadie, Alves, Vang, and Messer. Through the first 15 minutes, both teams traded jabs in this one and overhit passes as the wind in Seaside was swirling. You could really hear it on the broadcast. You could hear the speakers cracking and the wind just hitting it. It was really affecting the game, really affecting play and any kind of long balls or aerial balls that both teams were trying to play. Each side had a couple of half chances, but play for both teams inside the final third was just not there. Rhode Island began to dominate the possession battle and had a few good moves, but upon losing possession and showing the high press we saw last week versus New Mexico, Monterey Bay countered very nicely, including one move down the side. They're attacking right, which found the back of the net, but it saw the side judge put up the offside flag. This was it looked offside from the get. So I was glad to see there was no controversy with that one. And good to see that it was officiated quite well. And overall, I think the match was officiated quite well. Joe Brito was the first RAFC player booked for a very cynical tackle after Karifa Yao was brought down on the attack. I thought the Yao tackle was 50-50, and then Brito comes in and clipped the MBFC player out of frustration and to stop the break, making no attempt at the ball. This was a very reckless and unnecessary challenge, and I'll talk a bit more about the discipline issues a little later on in this episode. But just 4 minutes after that, Brito Yellow, Noah Fuson advanced the ball up the left center of the pitch and put in a beautiful through ball to the center of the box, finding a streaking Chico who fired home the opening goal on the 41st minute and Rhode Island FC's first goal scored by a Rhode Island FC player. This was a cool and calm finish from last season's most valuable player and Golden Boot winner, which one would expect and hope to see. But the highlight of this goal, for me at least, was Fuson absolutely threading the needle with such a beautiful pass. It was a beautiful ball, perfectly weighted, perfectly paced. Fine Chico, and he slid it home between the keeper's legs. Unfortunately, the joy was short-lived as Monterey Bay got one back just 5 minutes later as Martinez put in a nice ball on a set piece into the center of the box, finding Guzman, who slotted the ball into the bottom left corner, leveling the score at 1-all. I had a similar feeling to the New Mexico match as halftime came. Despite being tied, RAFC was in control of this one more so than Monterey Bay. RAFC led the possession battle with 54%, although being outshot 7-5. Monterey Bay had 3 on target to RIFC's 2, and RIFC had 3 corners to Monterey Bay's 1. The wind, as I mentioned earlier, played a major role in this one. You could hear it cracking through the broadcast. You could see it on the long balls. Coque Vegas had a moment with it. I just figured there would be more goals coming in the second half. As long as we could minimize bad giveaways in the middle and the back, we'd be okay. And the second half started with Monterey Bay getting on the ball early and often. Grant Stoneman was booked with a last-ditch drag down right out of the half. And I thought we got extremely lucky with this one, as it very well could have been a red card for him being the last defender. Stoneman, to his credit, immediately hopped up and pointed at Karifa Yao, who was off to his left a little bit, pleading with the referee that he would have had a play at the ball. Personally, I think we got very lucky here. Yao was off and behind this by several steps, and this very easily could have and probably should have been a red card, which would have seen RIFC play essentially the entire second half with just 10 men. I mentioned in the last episode, I was worried about Yao being booked frequently because of how he goes into challenges, but I thought he did much better today. Although this was much better with Grant Stoneman. This was a lucky one for Stoneman. Let's just leave it at that. Mark Ibarra was the next RAFC player booked in the 54th minute and was immediately joined in that referee's book by Steven Turnbull, who ran right over to the referee, adamantly disputing the official's call, and found himself being booked for dissent. I mentioned earlier I would talk a little bit about the discipline, and here was the piece de resistance for me. The Brito and Turnbull yellows were both just inexcusable and extremely avoidable. Just 55 minutes into this one, and we already had 4 players on yellows. We could have had a player sent off based on that challenge. Hopefully, this is something we'll see the players rein in a bit, as Ibarra and Stoneman now each have 2 yellows through the first 2 matches. And it is worth noting there is a 1-match suspension for yellow card accumulation through the USL when you hit 5. So just about halfway there for Stoneman and Ibarra. Hopefully, they can go on a run of matches without getting a yellow. At this early stage in the club and in the season, we just need our best players on the pitch. They need to develop consistency and fluidity playing with one another and not be suspended for reckless and avoidable yellow cards. But I'll step down from that soapbox for now. I do like our physical and aggressive play, and I know that is a trade-off. But when it comes to cards for dissent or cards for a reckless, just tactical foul, some people might call it, those are the ones that we have to avoid. Moving back into the action, we saw Chico get his brace as he fired home the right-footed shot from point blank, and the Tide were back on top in the 63rd minute. Brito put in a nice bouncing ball into a dangerous spot for this one, and Chico was first to it, beating everyone and the keeper. It was great seeing Chico score again, and know that him kicking on early is such a good sign. Usually that final third is what comes late for teams. I really can't wait for JJ to get healthy and see the two of them up top together just hunting for goals. With just under half an hour to play, I was feeling pretty confident with this one and the way it was going. I really thought we were going to see the first 3 points for RIFC. But credit to Monterey Bay, who battled back again and leveled the match at 2-2 in the 72nd minute. This was the result of a very poor giveaway in the center of the field, which was crossed in nicely by Monterey Bay, and Traeger slotted it home from close range. I know I've read some people on social media and in the Defiance Discord complaining about the lack of a midfield presence for RIFC, and it showed here. It was a cheap and lazy backwards pass, which was easily picked off and transitioned to a goal. This happened on several occasions, whether it was our defenders underhitting a pass, a free kick taken too quickly, midfielders giving the ball up in easy spots. We need to play better in the center of the park. We need to take more time on the ball and string together some passes. I know this one was a bit different as Holstead was out, and overall I think McGlynn did a very nice job stepping into that starting lineup. However, as teams figure us out and see that we want to get extremely wide and get it forward to Chico, they're going to create overloads through formations and tactics in the middle of the pitch, and I think we're going to struggle with that. Definitely something I'll be keeping my eye on as the season progresses, and hopefully we can remedy and make it an area of strength rather than concern. Coque Vegas was barged into and eventually subbed out in the 80th minute, and Jackson Lee made his first professional appearance in net. This will be something to keep our eye on as our club captain, first signing, and number 1 picked up an injury. Hopefully it's nothing long-term. Hopefully he'll be fine and ready to go next week. Although I am a big fan of Jackson Lee and his mustache, he seems like he's got quite the personality. Having seen him in a few of the club events, and on the videos, he just seems like a very happy and hyped up guy. And I think he'll be hungry to compete in Koke's absence if there is one. So definitely a situation we'll need to monitor. And the club did a nice job on this one of putting out the injured players before announcing the lineup. So it's cool and it's good to see that they'll have that transparency with the fans with that. Along with Lee making his debut, Connor McGlynn and Prince Sadie each made their 100th USL Championship appearances. So big congratulations to them. I think it's another nod to the front office who brought in, at least in my opinion, a good balance of young players and veterans alike. All in all, as the final whistle came, it was a well-earned point. Much to many people's dismay in our Discord and on my preview podcast with the Union Report, I picked Monterey Bay to win this one. I figured the first away match being a cross-country trip in the absence of Clay Holstead, kind of parlayed with this Monterey Bay team having some good form and beating last year's champions in their last time out. I thought this would take a toll on the squad in this one, but I'm happy to admit I was wrong, and we'll take the point. RIFC battled from kickoff till the final whistle and very easily could have come back home with all 3 points. Final stats for this one saw RIFC with a 54 to 46% possession lead. Monterey Bay outshot Rhode Island 12 to 9 with 4 shots on target to our 3. Both teams committed 12 fouls, and Monterey Bay attempted 5 corners to RIFC's 3. RIFC completed 298 passes, good for 73%, with 162 of them in our own half and 136 passes completed in the opposing half. We were only able to complete 1 cross, which was sadly good enough for 4%. For a team that likes to get it wide and press high, this is a stat that we will need to improve on throughout the season. Defensively, RIFC won 18 tackles, 47 ground duels, and 15 aerial duels, with 13 interceptions, 4 blocks, 19 clearances, and 2 keeper saves. If you listen to my post New Mexico episode, you know that I don't give a man of the match in this podcast, but instead I give a top 3 performers. Number 3 in this one for me was midfielder Mark Ibarra. He earned a 7.0 match rating on FOTMob, completing 32 passes on 61 touches. 11 of his passes were into the opposition final third, looking to spring RIFC on the attack. He played 4 accurate long balls, won both tackles he went in for, and had 2 clearances, one of them which was headed. 3 interceptions, 10 defensive actions, and 5 recoveries while winning 5 duels. This was a big performance in the midfield in the absence of Holstead. Number 2 for me was Noah Fuzon. Fuzon earned a 7.2 match rating on FOTMob. He had the 1 assist and created another chance, 1 shot and completed 28 passes on 57 touches. A successful dribble, 7 passes into the final third, and 2 accurate long balls. Defensively, he won a tackle, had an interception, 3 defensive actions, 3 recoveries, and 6 duels won. He showed on the assist and on several other turns and dribbles just how silky he is on the ball. He's just a lot of fun to watch. And while Chico might be bagging the goals for us, Fuzon might just be our most important player. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. And number 1 for me was none other than the man, Albert Chico Diqua, and his brace, earning an 8.6 match rating on FOTMob, 2 goals on 4 shots, 10 of 15 on his passing on 31 touches, with 5 touches coming in the opposing box. Defensively, he chipped in with an interception, 2 recoveries, with 2 duels won. Chico is a beast out there. As long as we can figure out getting him more service and creating more chances for the big fella, he will continue to score and put in massive shifts. I changed things up a little on this one as I ranked them from 3 to 1. Hopefully you like that. How did I do? Did you have anyone different? Did I get anyone right? Did I get anyone wrong? Get in touch on the socials and let me know. As far as your thoughts on the match, I again got the most responses on Reddit, so thank you to all who wrote in. Please stand by said, I'll take a point on the road, but at any point in the game, it felt like either side could have had several more. So draw seems fair as well. It feels good to that across 2 matches, we seem to have solid offensive performances and chances, and that with a little more finish, we could easily have 6 points. This feels like an accomplishment for an expansion team. I think that's well said. I think we were in both matches. We could have won both matches. But the draw and the point in Seaside was, I think, definitely more than fair for me as well. Next up, OJ Valley said, cross-posting from the other post-match thread. All things considered, I'm happy with the result. I think we probably got a gift with the offsides call on that third NBFC goal. That one, I didn't really mention my open, but it was tough to see. It was tough to see with the defender and that camera angle. But I know the announcers seem to think that the referees got that one wrong as well. Um, OJ Valley continued to say, would love to see the boys show a bit more discipline with regards to bookings. Things get a bit dicey when the half the team is on yellows going into the second half. And I, pretty much said the same myself and could not agree with you more. And Liverpool replied to OJ with, agreed, the passion is there, which is excellent, but the yellows are concerning. Better communication is needed all around the pitch, but particularly in the back line. Overall, really pleased with a very new team getting their bearings. And finally, from Reddit, Nomad Hero said, man, that win made for a very defensively focused second half. It sure was whipping. On Twitter, Craig at CP Jolliker wrote in asking thoughts on our set piece defense after the first two games. And I'll say this, for me, it's shaky at best. Players tend to not track the runs well and switch off instead of staying with their man. Hopefully, it's something the staff has noticed as well and can be remedied. On the flip side, I think we look great on our corners and attacking set pieces. So, where does this gap or of concentration or this gap of focus come from, and why is it occurring? Definitely something to keep an eye on, and definitely an area needing improvement. If you'd like to contribute to the discussion on the next episode, make sure you're following RIFC Nation on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or the Rhode Island FC subreddit. You can find all those accounts by clicking the link in this episode description. I make post-match posts on all of those social media outlets looking for your feedback. If you'd like to get in touch outside of any of those, you can always send me an email at rifcnation@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to bring your thoughts to the episode. Next up for RIFC is a trip to St. Pete as we take on the Tampa Bay Rowdies on Saturday, March 30th at 7:30 p.m. The Rowdies have also drawn both of their opening matches with a 2-all affair at home in their season opener versus San Antonio, and most recently a 1-all tie at North Carolina FC. We're level on points and on goals, so this will be a big one early in the season. If you were able to check out my preview episode of the Monterey Bay match with the Union Report, I'll be doing something similar with Tampa Bay Rowdies fan on Instagram. We've scheduled this one for Thursday at 4 p.m., so make sure you're following my socials and subscribe to the YouTube as well. We'll preview this one live again, so remember, you can get in the chat and join the conversation, say hi, ask questions, agree, disagree with any points, like my good friend Fluffy Koi Hog Boy did last time with my score predictions. But you can always interact on any of those live shows in the chat. Remember, the Defiants are holding their watch party at the German Club in Pawtucket, and I'm sure the club will be announcing theirs probably at some point by the time this episode airs or by the time you've listened to or watched it. So, with it being another away match, link up with some fans, drink some beers, and up the tide. That will wrap things up for this one. Thanks again for tuning in. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe, or leave a rating and a review wherever you listen. It just helps more people find the show. Remember, again, you can find all of the accounts on the link in this episode description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time, RIFC Nation. See ya.